Hi everyone, I am TheSnikk with Dota University, and today's workshop is going to be on laning as a support. And more precisely, it's going to be on how we're going to do harassment in the lane, and how we're going to develop a game plan on how we're going to go about this. Where should we be? What should we do? Should we be pulling? Should we be playing in the lane, out of the lane? What kind of starting items are we going to get to make that happen? Those kind of things are the things we're going to discuss. Now, why is this important? I think it's very helpful to just take a moment and think about your game before it actually starts. If you can come up with a game plan, like broad strokes, simple game plan of what you're going to do in the lane, it will be a lot easier to play because for one, you'll not be falling for the trap of autopiloting, which is what I think a lot of players end up doing. They just end up having the same game plan for every hero, or they only think about their own hero and don't think about the opposing heroes. And if we have a game plan, we will have a sort of guideline of what to do throughout the lane. We won't have to second guess ourselves. There is always these situations where you're trading hits with another support and you're like, is this good? This is bad? Am I coming out ahead? Just take a few moments to think about it before the game, and we will be able to answer all those questions and be much more decisive in what we're going to do during the game. So, in the basis of things, it's going to be on harassment. So we're two supports in a lane. We'll be hitting each other. We'll be hitting the cores, and most of the damage is going to come from right clicks or auto attacks. So there are two things that are important. Two statistics that are important. And if we go to your Dota client, there is this menu over here where you can see all the heroes. And let's say we're playing Lina. You can look up the statistics of the Lina in the About section over here. So you can see that Lina has a attack, a right click of 51 to 59 damage, and she's got 4 armor. So these are the only two things we want to look about. You can look at a whole bunch of other stats, but we want to keep it simple. So these are the two things we're going to look at. Now, if our lane matchup will be against Shadow Shaman, for example, then the Shadow Shaman, we can look the guy up as well. He's got 71 to 78 attack damage, and he's got 5 armor. And if you are on a Discord such as Dota University, which has the Mango bot running, you can do this in the Mango bot section as well by !hero Lena and !hero Shadow Shaman, and you will get the same statistics in a nutshell. So these are the things that we want to look at. So let's say we're the Lena. What we want to do is we're going to try and find an edge here somewhere. We have to find an edge here that we have over the other support that we can exploit to get the best possible situation for ourselves. So if we're Lina, let's have a look at this. Our attack damage is way lower. Shadow Shaman's attack damage is very, very high for a support hero. And our armor is also lower. So if we're just standing across from each other and we're trading right clicks, it's going to be bad for us every single time. We don't have the edge of mobility either. Our movement speed is virtually identical. So the only thing we have an advantage in is attack range, really. As you can see, the Lina has got 670 attack range, and the Shadow Shaman has got 400 attack range. So this tells us where our edge is. In this case, we only have one edge, which is going to be our attack range, and everything else is either identical or worse. So our game plan for this lane is going to be keeping the distance, right? That seems fairly obvious. We have the range advantage. Let's keep the distance, and then we should have a better time because we can hit him whilst he's not going to be able to hit us back. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the skills of the heroes, right? So back to data. If we look at the skills, we basically only we don't want to complicate this too much. We just want to look at skills that are directly influencing our trading. So these are things that either influence attack damage and attack speed, such as attack speed slows, for example, like Crystal Nova from the Crystal Maiden, or Lich's first skill, or for example Jakiro's dual breath. That's another one. So these skills, when they're being used, you will, if you're on the receiving end of them, you will attack slower, and as such, the balance in right clicks will shift towards your opponent because he's just gonna be able to get more attacks off in the same time. In our matchup, in this case, we got Alina with the stun, which is a pretty spammable stun. Does good damage, spammable stun, not very expensive, low cooldown as well. So that's a great skill. And you've got Shadow Shaman, who really only has a nuke, which we have as well as the Lina. So Shadow Shaman, realistically, you've got a Hex as well, you've got a channeled hold, but the Hex doesn't do any damage, it's very expensive. And a channeled hold, once you're channeling, of course, you cannot be hitting each other. So in a vacuum, 1v1, our skill set is also better. We have the stun that we can use to stop the Shadow Shaman in his tracks, and then we can use that time to either get more hits in, or we can use that time to reposition ourselves to gain the distance again. Alright, so we're gonna go to starting items next. Starting items, you can go two ways with your starting items. One of the things you can do with your starting items is shore up a weakness that you have as a hero. So for example, if I'm Shadow Shaman, I could shore up my weakness in our matchup here by taking movement speed. So I could buy items that give me movement speed. For example, I could go boots first, or I could go windlace first. And that would give me a movement speed advantage over the Lina, which allows me to close the distance, and that kind of nullifies the range advantage. Because there's no items you can buy to equalize range advantage in this game, at level 1 at least. And the other way around, if I am Lina, I can, if I wanted to shore up my weaknesses, I could buy armor items, or I could buy damage items. But realistically, I'm never going to be able to buy enough damage items or armor items to be able to trade with a Shadow Shaman, just because his attack damage is so obnoxiously high. So that brings me to the second thing you can do with the starting items. You can also use your starting items to become better at the thing that you're already good at. Right? Because we've established a game plan, we're going to stay at range, we're going to pepper this guy with right clicks, and whenever he comes close, we can either throw the stun or we can reposition. So to do that, we can to improve on that, we can simply just buy damage items. So every right click that we get off is going to do more damage. Simple. The other thing we could do is we could get a mobility item first. And if we get a mobility item first, then we both have the range and the mobility advantage, and it will actually be very hard for the Shadow Shaman to play against us. So that's another thing we could do. Now, that's just talking to about supports one-on-one. Of course, there's two other people in the lane. There's Cores, there's going to be position 1 and position 3 in the lane. And depending if you're safe lane or off lane, it's going to be your 1 or your 3. And for this workshop, we're actually not going to talk about them too much, because I want this workshop to be usable for people who are, let's say, usable for people who are solo queuing, usable for people who are playing in literally any situation. So, while there are a lot of things you can do in terms of playing together and strategies you can come up with together, oftentimes, if you're solo queuing, you're not going to be like very in sync with your core. Sometimes you will have a great connection, then everything will flow together and that's great, but there will definitely be times where that's not the case, and you will just have to kind of do your own thing, whilst the core is doing his own thing as well. So that's the basis of this this workshop. Let's say there are two ways you can play the lane. So either you're going to be playing it as a 2v2, which means that you and your support are in the lane together. You're going to be playing around your support, and you will always be quite near your support to be ready to aid him or combo off of him or whatever. And the other way you can play this is as two separate 1v1s, where your core is going to be 1v1ing their core in the lane, and you will be playing out of the lane on purpose. So you will be either in the jungle, you will be on the pool camps, you will be trying to pull their support away. And the way you want to think about this is you just want to pick whichever one is more favorable for you, which, you know, sounds like an open door, but I'll bring up some examples later where we can see how you can determine which one is going to be best, 2v2 or 2 1v1. Sometimes both are good as well, but the most immediate example is, of course, if your heroes have a lot of good synergy. So I am playing a Juggernaut. That's a classic example, right? I'm playing a Juggernaut and the other guy is playing Crystal Maiden. You've got this, oh, I'm going to slow and root and Juggernaut's going to spin. That is an obvious synergy. Another really popular one is a double stun lane, especially for offlaners. So I have a position 3 who has a stun, let's say a Sand King. And I am playing Alina, who also has a stun. So we can do the Sand King stun into the Alina stun, and then that's a lot of damage, a lot of control as well. So that's another lane that would have a lot of 2v2 synergy. You also have two lanes that you can also have two laners that don't have a lot of synergy together, but are very strong individually. For example, if your core hero has like a really high right-click damage, or is kind of a lane bully, for example, he's a Viper, then if he is going to 1v1 their core, he will win like most of the time. So in those cases, it might actually be beneficial to let him 1v1 the other core. He will get solo experience and he will be able to dominate the other core, whilst his support will not be able to support him. So let's look at some examples. I have a match here in line with the matchup that we discussed earlier. So in this match, I am playing the Lina. I've got a Slaughter on my team, and the other team is got a Shadow Shaman, as you can see. That's this guy, and they've got an Animage. So we already talked about how Lina and Shadow Shaman kind of relate to each other, and you will see that I'm going to go for maxing out my edge that I already have. So I'll be able to do a lot of damage from range, and I am buying, my starting items are only going to be damage based. So I'm buying a whole bunch of stats, and this is literally it's seven stats in terms of damage, and then I've got another 2 for the Fairy Fire. So I'm buying 9 damage worth of right click. This will put me to 61 damage, so that's a pretty respectable amount of damage. It's still not as much as the Shadow Shaman from the other team, but it'll get me there. You will also notice, and this is going to be a general theme, that I only buy very limited regen, because we've all had our own couriers for a while, and I believe that by the time that you chew through 3 tangos, unless you're like literally brawling all the time, you will have enough time to buy another set of tangos with your courier.
Oh, that is too good.
So let's speed this up a little bit.
The battle begins.
In terms of synergy, I am playing with a Slaughter. Obvious double stun, even triple stun synergy. And there is not a lot of synergy between Animage and Shadow Shaman. Like, the best I can come up is what Shadow Shaman holds you whilst Animage drains all your mana. It's not super spooky. So for us, it's in our best interest to play in a 2v2. So we're going to talk a little bit about positioning. This guy, as I clicked on him and I checked his items, he does not have any boots, but he has a lot of regen. So he's looking to brawl, right? He's got 2 stacks of tangos and a healing self, and even like a lot of mana regen as well. So he's looking to brawl, he's looking to use his skills a lot. You can already see he's running in and shocking my starter right away to get the damage going. He's trying to like throw his resources at the wall and hopefully secure the lane that way. Whilst I am much more sparse on resources, but I have a lot of damage in my arsenal. So what do I want to do? I want to keep the range as we discussed earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play on the opposite side of the map. So we got our Slaughter, we got our Shadow Shaman playing over here, I'm playing over here. I'm gonna abuse the trees as much as possible to give me some cover, and I'm basically gonna be trading places with the Shadow Shaman every time. If he's located over here, he cannot hit me because he would have to go through the creep wave and through my slaughter. So he might eventually rotate down below, come up here, and try and hit me over there. But by that time I can just walk over there. We'll see how it plays out. As you can see, I'm abusing my range. I don't want to be directly in the creep wave, because then I'm going to be drawing creep aggro, as you can see here, which is not very good. Of course, if you get opportunities like that for a double stun, definitely use them. But you can see that the Shadow Shaman is doing his best in spamming out the spells and getting right clicks off, but I have a very strong position over here and I can just keep hitting him. And whenever he goes back, I'll just keep hitting the anti-mage. So let's have a look at how this plays out. Of course, double stuns are very good. And this is just nice for my slaughter, right? Now, he's coming on the same side here for a second. And that's not what I want to play, because when he's on the same side, he can abuse these trees to sneak up on me. And then all of a sudden my only advantage that I had, my range, is nullified. So I don't want to do that. Either I want to have vision of where he is, so I could potentially put a ward over here. Or I could potentially have Slaughter cut all these trees, for example. But I can also just play somewhere else. Let's see, I am switching over to the other side, as you can see. So right now, I'm on the other side. It's a bit indecisive, but besides they have a large creep wave coming in, so I'm just chilling in the back a little bit. And I'm going back on to the left side, whilst he's going on to the right side. And we're just dancing around like that. I don't want to spend too much time on every replay, but you can kind of see how this works out, with me getting a lot of damage off and the Shadow Shaman not being overly effective in the amount of harassment he gets off. There he goes again.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
And it's basically downhill from here. Alright, so how would we play this differently if we are the Shadow Shaman? And I have got a replay for that as well, so we can have a look at that. Not too long after that game, I actually got another game, which was very similar actually. I had a guy who wanted to play anti-mage on my team, and the other side was playing Pudge Mirana. And Mirana is actually another one of those heroes that has one of the highest attack ranges in the game, and it's just very good at clicking heroes and punishing people with short range. And the Mirana has also got mobility on top, so it's actually very hard to get on top of the Mirana. So what I'm doing here, I'm going to go boots first, because I already have terrific stats here. My damage is good, my armor is good. The only thing I need is to be able to get on top of the Mirana. And because I've thought about this matchup before the game, I can be confident in taking the fights. Every time the Mirana comes up to me, I can just keep hammering him, because I know I have the upper hand, and that will come into play in a bit. The thing that makes this lane a little bit hard is that we don't really have the advantage anywhere in terms of laning. Like, Pudge is a hero that has very high right click damage. As you can see, he's got 70, 72 or 76 right click damage, whereas my anti-mage is only sitting on 59. So, if they're going to be 1v1ing, Pudge should win that most of the time, just because he's got 50 more base damage than the anti-mage does. So I don't want to 1v1. Don't want to let him 1v1. So I'm going to be, my game plan in this lane is going to be, I'm going to be bullying the Mirana out of the lane, but as soon as the Mirana leaves, I will swoop in and harass the Pudge. Alright, let's have a look at that. I got a lot of damage in on the Mirana earlier, because she decided to trade with me, but it doesn't really matter for this game. She will be back soon, and with reasonably good health. Now, the Mirana went for boots first, which I think is a mistake, because you already have the mobility edge over the Shadow Shaman, especially with your elite ability. So I would have built Mirana much like I would have built the Lina last game, and I would have gotten a lot of damage. Because right now she hits like a wet noodle. 47 damage is not a lot. But we'll see how this plays out. So I was over here. I see the Mirana over there. I want to play right next to the Mirana. So I will probably move over to the right side. Yes, there you go. And I'm going to be playing on the Mirana side. See, the range advantage is nullified when we play over there. Of course, I have to be a little bit careful because there's still a Pudge and he could hook me, which would be bad news. So I can't go up there now, but as soon as I see the Pudge, and I know where the Pudge is, I can try and find the Mirana again. If I don't see the Mirana, I'm not going to chase the Mirana, because I know the Pudge will beat my AM 1v1. So I'm going to go back into the lane, hit the Pudge. That's basically what I want to play. I want to hit the Mirana, chase him out of the lane. As soon as he leaves, I'm going to go back and hit the Pudge. And this is the best way I can buy some space for my Animage. Mirana is back, we're going to go to the right side. Hit this Mirana, and you see that she can't trade with me. She has to back off every time. And then when she backs off, I'm going to go and hit this Pudge. Bit of miscommunication over there, but it is what it is. Alright. So these are two, let's say two examples of playing the lane as a 2v2 lane. This is a sort of a hybrid version, because I am playing against, I'm playing on the side of the lane a little bit, but mostly 2v2. Now, if you're playing a 1v1 lane, let's say if I wanted to play this as a 1v1 lane, where I would have my core hero fighting against their core hero, and I just wanted to draw their Mirana away as much as possible, there's a few things you can do. So the most obvious thing you can do that draws in supports like Honey is pulling, right? If I'm pulling and I'm making it very obvious, 9 out of 10 times their support is gonna come and take a look, especially if you're a little bit higher MR games. These guys don't want you to pull, so they either block it, and if it's not blocked, they will come and contest the pulls. Likewise over here, you can contest the pulls. You can either hit the pulled creeps, or you can hit the creeps that are being pulled to draw aggro. But whilst this is all going on, he is not hitting my Animage or my core. So my Animage could freely 1v1 against their offlaner, and he would have a good time. The other thing you can do is, if you approach from the side, so like let's say the Mirana is sitting over here in the lane, and I'm approaching from the side, and the Mirana is returning fire, I can try and bait him in. Like try and bait him in and get him to follow me maybe. The other way around works as well. If I'm attacking him and he moves over to the other side, I can follow him and try and push him out of the lane. And if I wanted to play it as a 2v2, I would not actually follow him, but I would instead switch focus to his core. So those are a few things that you can do to either pull people out of the lane and make it into a 1v1, or make it into a 2v2 if you want to. Alright. Now, let's look at a different example. Let's look at an example in which we don't actually have an edge. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes you have these games where you just don't have an edge in harassment. Like it's not there. This is going to be one of those games. I am playing Crystal Maiden, and we are playing against a Lion and the Legion Commander. Now, Legion Commander is one of the strongest heroes in the strongest laners in the game, right? Really good base movement speed, really good base damage, has skills that help her trade as well. And my Juggernaut, not so much, right? You can already tell, like, Legion Commander is sitting on 70 damage. My Juggernaut, he's buying stat items, and that's very sensible, but he's sitting on, like, let's say just under 60 damage, right? So that's much of a disadvantage. The second thing is that the only asset he has, which is his Blade Fury spin damage, is kind of nullified by the fact that this guy is super fast. Then of course they also have a Lion on their team who has double disables. And if we look at the comparison between Lion and me, we got a Lion over here. He's got 50 base damage and 290 base movement speed. And he's got 600 attack range, and he's got 3 armor. Whereas I have the same, roughly the same attack damage, the same attack range. I have less movement speed, and I also have less armor. So I don't have the edge anywhere. I do have the attack speed slow in the Crystal Nova, but he's got a stun, so he can just kind of negate that. So what I'm going to do in this lane is instead of going for, instead of like shoring up my weaknesses, like I could for example say I wanted to get a movement speed item to get the edge that way, or maybe like buff up my damage, I'm just going to make sure that my Juggernaut can get a spin off. So to that end, I'm going to make that. I think that's our edge in this lane, right? I'm going to play together with my Juggernaut because he's going to lose 1v1 for sure. So I cannot split the lane up. I have to play 2v2. I have to support him, and the best chance that we have is a spin combo. So what do I need to do? I need to, one, make sure these guys get low enough because the spin combo doesn't kill from full health. And two, I need to make sure that I have sufficient mana to keep cycling my spells and get the slow and the snare in that is required to kill the Legion Commander, because it's just such a fast hero. And as you can see, the Lion, very sensibly, he already knows that he has the edge in the, or like he's not necessarily the edge, but he's doing well in terms of right clicks and armor and everything. The only thing that he realistically has to worry about is the spin combo, so he's going to go boots first to get some movement speed. So this looks like a very hard lane, but I think if you go very aggro and we don't focus on the harassment and we just focus on actually doing damage. This guy is getting very greedy actually. Oof. Well, that definitely helps. That definitely helps. But yeah, we're gonna focus on getting kills and actually getting the lane that way instead of prolonged harassment. Because if it's just gonna be us trading harassment and us trading skill usage, we're gonna lose every time. I will say I'm a little bit out of position there. I imagined there was the Enigma offlane, as you would normally expect, but you can already see like one little misstep of the Juggernaut and 3/4 of his health pulled back on. This lane is a lot of damage, but they are getting low, and that is dangerous because this guy has a spin. So in that sense, we're doing good. As long as they're low, they can't really approach the lane because we always have the threat of the spin combos. This is how I'm gonna secure some farm for my Juggernaut. Right. Now you can see this is tricky because we just pulled, and the Lion is coming over to maybe get some of the creeps. Now, on one hand, I don't want him to get the creeps. On the other hand, I don't want my Juggernaut to 1v1 the Legion Commander because he's just going to have a very rough time. So, what I can do two things here. I can either go back straight into the lane and put pressure on the Legion Commander, which in turn will also pull the Lion in. Or I can stay here and secure some creep. Now, I took a quick look at the lane and I saw that our creeps are almost dying, so there's no real need to immediately do anything. But I'm repositioning myself just to be able to help the Juggernaut out if need be. Cheeky deny over there. Right. Now for me this is also very difficult because I am a very slow hero with no armor, and it's very easy for me to die in this lane. So I need to both be aggressive and get the harassment out, but my positioning is very important here. So we got the Legion Commander here. I always want to know where the Legion Commander is before I make my move, and once I know where the Legion Commander is, I can make my move on the Lion. The Lion does have the double disables. He went for a second point of mana drain, so he only has one at this point. But it is very important that I am aware of where these guys are before I make my move. So there we go. Playing this wood area a little bit, and just like the previous game, chasing the Lion out, and when the Lion is out, we're switching over to the LC. We're not chasing the Lion because we're playing this as a 2v2 lane. And if we get the LC low enough, then he will feel very you'll feel very insecure about going on the Juggernaut because this can happen.
Burns, doesn't it?
All right. I mean, I think the example is pretty clear. I'm just here trying to spam things out, and I'm trying to mind my position to not do something like that. That was not good. Alright. Let's say, let's see. The last thing. Let's do one more example with like a different type of hero. So this last example is going to be where I am going to be playing a melee support against 2 ranged offlaners. And if you're playing a melee support against 2 ranged offlaners, that generally is a horrendous time. So I am playing the Bounty Hunter here, and we are playing against Nature's Prophet and Invoker. Now, we can look at the Bounty Hunter with the stats. We can do this in either your bot chat or you can do it in-game. But Bounty Hunter is a hero that has very, very high base movement speed and very, very high base armor. So he's actually quite... He's a lot like Ogre Magi, although people don't think of him as an Ogre Magi. He is actually quite similar to an Ogre Magi in that sense. So we look at the hero now. 7 base armor and 320 movement speed. And also his right click is quite reasonable. Obviously the only drawback is that we are a melee hero. So what do I need to do in this lane? In order to get any meaningful harassment out, I need to close the distance. So as a melee hero, you need movement speed for that. Now, fortunately, I have a melee hero that has a very high base movement speed, so I don't necessarily have to buy boots. You can buy boots, but you don't have to because you already have quite high movement speed. So instead, what I'm going to do is buy the Orb of Venom, so that I can slow them, and that way we may be able to get more damage into them. Because I am laning with, I believe I'm laning with a Luna here. So the Luna, who is for all intents and purposes is a melee hero, he's got 330 attack range. So we're basically 1 melee hero and 1 very short ranged hero against 2 ranged heroes. So in terms of harassment, if we're going to play this lane very statically, if we're going to play this lane like a CSing lane, we will lose 99 out of 100 times, because they will be able to pump much more damage into us than we are able to pump into them. So we need to take the fight to them. We need to take the fight to them when they're the weakest. Of course, the Invoker is the weakest at level 1 because he only has 1 spell, and he doesn't have any points in Wax or maybe Exort even that will help him sustain and do more damage in the lane. So we want to take the fight to them right away. And for those purposes, I also bought the double sets of tangos. I won't do this a lot, but in this case, I'm pretty sure that I will be using a lot of tangos because we're just going to be running at them constantly, and they have a lot of damage output with Treants and Cold Snap and all that. So that's going to be my approach for this lane. Let's take a look at the other guys. We've got the Invoker here, who looks to be the core, and he's just maxing out the amount of damage that he does. Now, alternatively, if the Invoker was not the core, this would still actually be quite okay, because if you look at me and the if you look at the Bounty Hunter and the Invoker, he's got the range advantage over me, and that's about it. Like, our damage is very similar. He's got a lot less armor, and he definitely has a lot less movement speed. So he's got less movement speed to the point where it's not really fixable with boots anymore. So he's gonna have to use the range that he has and just overwhelm me with the amount of damage that he does. And he's got the backup of a Furion, who's gonna have a Blightstone to amplify the damage that both the Invoker and his Treants do as well, which is a very good item, of course. So we'll have a look at how this plays out. In terms of 1v1s versus 2v2s, this would actually be a great lane to play as a double 1v1. And why is that? Because I'm pretty sure that Luna will actually have a very comfortable time 1v1ing an Invoker. Of course, at this point I don't know if the Invoker is going to be off lane, or if he's even going to be core. It could be a mid Invoker and like an off lane Lina. That's perfectly feasible. So I can't just make my decision just yet. But once I see the lanes, I should be able to go in 1v1. So if we wanna do that game plan, if you wanna let the Luna 1v1 the Invoker, then I will be doing a lot of pulling over here to see if I can get the Bounty Hunter to follow me. I will be trying to contest their pull, because contesting their pool was also a surefire way to get the support to fight you, which is great because then the Luna is 1v1 the Invoker. And if they are if they are sticking together constantly, I'm gonna be darting in from the back, seeing if I can just hit the Furion a couple of times and seeing maybe he wants to follow me, maybe he wants to trade with me. That will be ideal case scenario. Right, so here we go. I took a point of Shadow Walk because it's a very it's a good slow, and if it stacks with your Orb of Venom, so you get a lot of slow going. Now this is another one of those things where I thought about this matchup a little bit beforehand, so I am comfortable in taking this fight. Whereas normally you would see Nature's Prophet with a Blightstone and he's summoning treants, you would probably feel like, hey, this is bad for me, but I thought about it, it's like, hey, I have a lot of armor, I do a lot of damage, I can probably take this fight and feel comfortable about it. Until the Invoker shows up, of course. So we're doing this, and actually getting him down to a little bit under half HP, which is good times. Now it would have actually been okay for me to stick around, let the Luna 1v1 the Invoker, and just stick around and wait for the Nature's Prophet to move down again so I can resume the harassment. But instead I chose to get some harassment in on the Invoker, which is of course also never a bad thing. Invoker is a very slow hero, so as you can see, if I get the slow from the E and the slow from the Orb of Venom, we can do quite a lot of damage to him. Alright, but now this is looking bad again. You can already see like the Luna is getting hammered the moment the Nature's Prophet is back in. Because of simply put the damage potential these two have, and they're both focusing on my core. So this is not what I want. I want this Nature's Prophet to be fighting me and not my Luna. So I'm gonna have to make a move right now. So I'm coming in from the side. He's backing off, okay. This is not the right time, of course. They're not hitting my Luna right now, so I don't have to make an immediate move. But if I open up right now, I'm going to be 2v1ing these guys, which is unfavorable for me. I want to take good trades. So we're going to go a little bit over here. And he's ramping up the aggression again. He doesn't see me, so he's like, I'm going to hit this Luna again. So we're probably going to make a move right here. Nope, he's going back again. There we go. A few hits. I mean, as long as the Invoker is running away from me, I don't have to turn around. Get the first blood, very nice.
First blood for Salamene and for the Dark Moon.
But yeah, this is how we want to play. We want to play very aggressive. We're not. If I don't play that aggressive, as you could see, they would just go on my Luna and murder the Luna, because there's way too much harassment between those two heroes for my Luna to sustain. So I need to be sort of a damage sponge. I need to be acting big. I need to run at these guys to make sure that they don't fuck up my Luna. So every time my Luna is in a bad spot, I have to be able to jump in and take the attention away from her. This doesn't mean like turn your brain off and just click on these guys constantly. Like I said, if there is no immediate danger, I don't need to do anything and I can pick good engagements. They're buying a bunch of sentries. Oh, they're buying a lot of sentries actually. We can pull the lane, of course, to reset it in our favor. And this is great again, right? The Nature's Prophet is moving over to the left hand side. It's exactly what I want. I don't want him to be hitting my Luna. So right now I could probably just run at the Nature's Prophet. It's been a while, I'm not sure what exactly I'm gonna do. Alright, yeah, I'm actually gonna run at the Nature's Prophet. Alright. I don't see him, so we're back on the chase to the Invoker. Luna's taking a lot of damage here. Alright. This was a little bit unfortunate. I had to do that over there because my Luna was in trouble, but you can see how much damage I took from taking both those heroes and the creep wave. Like, you can have all the armor in the world, that is still gonna hurt quite a bit. So that was an unfavorable trade. We need to get our health back up a little bit and then reset. We're picking the same angle. We're approaching from the left hand side. We want to be as close to these guys. We want to be on top of these guys before I open up. because they have the range advantage. So if I'm just gonna run straight at them, I'm not only gonna eat incoming damage, I'm also gonna draw creep aggro. I don't want to draw creep aggro. I want to be, the moment they see me, I have to be in attack range. That's basically how I want to play this. And they're doing a very good job at getting rid of the trees everywhere. I mean, these are good. These are like divine immortal players. These are good players. So they want to get rid of these trees, so that I can't sneak up on them as easily. But for me, I mean, there's a whole bunch of trees on this side. I can use this. So I'm currently using these trees as my approach instead. Or I can use these trees because they haven't been cut yet. And like I said, I don't have to do anything as long as this Nature's Prophet is not engaging with my Luna. Because then we're winning. I mean, I feel fairly confident that the Luna should be doing, yeah, I mean, 12 and 4. He's doing better than the Invoker, let's put it that way. And again, the moment these guys start turning around, I back off again. Alright, so that's a different approach. That's like a melee hero, where I want to play it as a... ideally I want to play it as 2 1v1s. And if they are just gonna be over here and focused on my Luna, I have to make moves. But the moment the Nature's Prophet is out of the lane, try and capitalize on him. Try and pull him away. Try and pull creeps or contest his own creeps, and that's the way you're gonna win these fights. Okay, I think that's about all the things I wanted to talk about in this workshop. We had a bit of a Q&A after the workshop last time. This time, again, if you have any more questions, you can ask me, you can DM me, you can put them in the comments or whatever. I hope this was useful, and I'll see you guys next time.